Before start, I just wanted to give you guys a quick overview of the topics that I would like to cover today. So first off, as said before, I want to give a quick introduction about myself, followed by the first topic, which is why did I choose to pursue a career in web development? Next, I want to talk about which development path I ended up choosing, because as you know, there are other forms of development. After that, I'm going to delve into my study habits and talk about some of the online resources I used and why I ended up using them compared to others. And I'm also going to talk about how I allocated my time into studying and what I did to stay consistent. And lastly, I'm going to wrap things up by talking about what I'm up to right now and what advice and tips do I have for others who also want to go the self-taught route. And as promised, here are some quick facts about me. So my name is Abdulahi Mohamed. I am 21 years old. I was born in Denmark with roots from Somalia. I have experience working as a junior WordPress developer, and I graduated from high school last year at Røde Gymnasium. I'm currently a volunteer at Hack Your Future, but I'm going to talk about that a little bit later. I'm also looking for any front-end positions, so if you know someone who are looking for a front-end developer, then please let me know. And lastly, this is the tech stack that I'm currently working in. And without further ado, let's jump right into the first topic, which is why did I choose to pursue a career in web development? And that's a good question. And to be honest, it all just started while I was still in high school, and one of my friends asked me what I wanted to do for a career. And up to this point, I hadn't really thought about it. He then suggested that why don't I look into programming, because he knew that I had an interest in IT, which was true. Since I was little, I remember always having an interest in computers and mobiles, but I'd never really seen myself choosing IT as a career path, because I thought that you had to be a genius with code, which I've now learned is not necessarily the case. And at the time I came to this realization, the year was 2017, and summer break was upon us. So I decided to go online and search for some programming tutorials just to get a feel of how it was like. And I stumbled upon a course that teaches how to build an Android app using Android Studio, which is an IDE made by Google. I remember not finishing the course, however, I managed to install the app on my mobile, and this is what it looks like. So, as you can see, it's very bare bone and only shows a picture of some androids holding a birthday party. And yeah, it doesn't have any functionalities. But nevertheless, I was still proud of myself and thrilled, and then from there, I was hooked. And the rest of the summer, I spent on learning basic HTML and CSS. Now, once the summer break was over, I had to go back to school, and I realized I wouldn't have so much time to code since it was my finals, it was my senior year, and final exam was coming up. So I ended up promising myself that once I finish high school, I'm going to take a gap year in order to fully dive into web development and hopefully land a job as a junior developer during that period. Now you might just ask, well, if you're interested in IT and programming, then why not just go to university? And to be frank, that was what I initially was planning to do. That was until I started watching videos on YouTube from developers telling about how they got into the industry being completely self-taught. And that was what initially inspired me to take the plunge. I wanted to experience what it was like learning to code on my own. And at the time, I thought to myself that I didn't really have anything to lose. And if for some reason it didn't turn out as I expected, then I could at least take some of that experience I had gained in order to get an advantage going into university. So fast forward to 2018 July, I had recently graduated from high school and I was about to start my gap year. And for those of you who don't know what a gap year is, it is a one-year break between high school and university. But before doing that, I wanted to be clear on a few things, and this led me on to my next topic, which is what development path am I going to choose and what online resources should I use? So I mentioned earlier that there are different types of development. We have mobile development, game development, and desktop development. Now, the reason why I choose web development specifically was because at the time it had the most appeal to me in terms of potential. So, and 2 sec. So yeah, in terms of potential, it had the most appeal to me. And in terms of choosing a programming language, I naturally choose JavaScript because it is used to build. It is used to take web browsers and turn them into web applications. So that's the reason why I choose JavaScript as an option. And in terms of resources to use, I mainly only used two, which were Udemy and YouTube. And for those of you who don't know what Udemy is, it is an online learning platform where you can learn all kinds of skills and not just programming. And the reason why I chose Udemy as a learning platform was because it has some very great courses and where you can really get value for your money. And they often have sales where you can buy some great courses for less than 100 Danish crowns. So it's very affordable. Another great resource I use is YouTube. And YouTube is a great resource if I need to get a quick overview over a programming language I'm currently learning. But I don't need to go too deep into and learn and buy a whole course. Then usually it's YouTube what I choose. And if you're also interested in checking out the person I was on YouTube, then I would definitely recommend checking out Travis Media, which is a YouTube channel that does some programming tutorials on the different languages and frameworks. And now I know that there are other great resources out there, such as Free Code Camp and Code Academy, which you can also check out. And but I would advise heavily that once you choose a resource, then stick with it, because I know from a personal experience that learning from too many resources can lead to procrastination and even lead to your concentration band getting shorter. So I would advise sticking with 2 to 3 resources at most. And this is what it looks like, what an information overload can look like if you read too many resources. So with that in mind, I now want to talk about how I allocated my time into studying and what I did to stay consistent. So I know for personally that I cannot study programming for 3 hours straight without taking small breaks in between. So I came up with a solution that says that I study programming for 50 minutes without interruption, followed by a 10-minute break. And the reason it is 50 minutes is because that's how long my concentration span seems to last. So yeah, that's why I choose 50 minutes. And 50 minutes. So yeah, so 15 minutes, then a 10-minute break. Not 15 minutes, just to clarify. So, in terms of how I kept myself accountable was that from the very beginning, before I even started to go on this journey to self-study, before I even began, I was aware why I did what I did. And it came down to that I knew my why. And what I mean by that is from the very beginning, I had a clear vision of why I wanted to pursue a career in web development. So since the beginning, I always wanted to work in a field where I could problem solve a lot. So, and that because I find it incredibly interesting to break down problems and slowly find a solution to it using software. And in terms of how I stay consistent in what I did was I wrote down 3 things I wanted to achieve on a particular day. So, and this is what a day-to-day routine could look like for me. So now I want to talk about what I'm up to right now. Yeah, sure. So as you can see, this is what a day-to-day plan could look like in terms of scheduling and keeping myself consistent. So now I want to talk about what I'm up to right now and what advice do I have for others who also want to go the self-taught route. So I'm currently building personal projects. A couple of months ago, I built a weather application using Ajax because I wanted to experience what it was like working with an API. And this is what I want to show you guys a quick demo of how the app works. So as you can see, it's not that visually appealing, but the focus for this app was not the design, but more on how many times could I refactor the code in order to use different methods such as fetch and async and awaits. And here's a quick comparison that shows how the code base has evolved after some refactoring. How I went from using multiple get element by ID to grab every element to now instead using object-oriented programming and callbacks in order to make everything more streamlined and maintainable. And I recently took this same project you see right now, and I redid it again, but this time using the React library. And here is a quick demo that shows how the app works. So as you can see, the app has improved a bit in terms of functionality and design. And once again, here is a comparison that shows how the code base has evolved after some refactoring, where I initially used class-based components with props to where I now instead use functional components with hooks, and I also use Redux for stage management. And building your own personal projects have been a great way for me to really cement what I've learned. And I would highly recommend anyone else also to build some projects because it has many great benefits. One of the most important ones being that it makes you think, which is what programming essentially is all about. Another great thing is that you get to really practice in learning how to problem solve. So that's also great. And besides doing personal projects, I'm also a volunteer at Hack Your Future. And Hack Your Future is a non-profit organization that teaches refugees, asylum seekers, and people with limited access to education how to become web developers with the intention of entering the IT industry as professionals. Now, the reason why I decided to join was because mainly I thought it was a great initiative, but I also think it's great because I'm sure you all read in the news that IT companies in Denmark are struggling to find new developers, and I think this is a great way to supply some of that demand. So in the end, what did I learn during my 1 year of learning how to program? Well, for starters, I learned that it's entirely possible to learn how to code on your own. I learned that I really like to problem solve. And I also learned that building projects is really fun to do, and it really can expand your creativity. And before I end, I want to give some quick tips for anyone else who also maybe are thinking about going the self-taught route. So first off, have a clear idea of what kind of developer you want to become. Write down daily and long-term goals to keep yourself consistent. Find 2 to 3 resources you like and stick with them. And go to meetups. And lastly, build lots of projects. And with that in mind, I would like to thank you for taking the time to listening to me today.